If lunges are in your training program and you're skipping them, rushing them, or swapping them out, I'm gonna call you out right now. Most people don't hate lunges. They hate feeling unstable, weak, and like nothing is working. I used to be exactly the same. I would skip lunges, half-ass them, or swap them out entirely because I could never nail the technique. But after a decade of training and working with thousands of clients myself, I figured out exactly what I was getting wrong. And today I'm sharing those lessons with you. And if you're new here, welcome to How to Gym, the series where I break down all of the gym stuff that no one ever teaches you, but everyone expects you to know. I'm going to give you a quick overview of how I think about lunges and split squats, from the easiest to the most technically demanding. And yes, I'm including split squats in here too. Same family, same rules apply. I want you to think of this as a progression runway. All of these variations are good exercises to include, but number 6 in particular is far more complex. And it also requires you to nail the first 5 before jumping there. Number 1, a bodyweight lunge, the foundation. If you can't do this well, nothing else matters. Number 2, a goblet split squat. Static position with the load in front. It's great for learning hip position without the complexity. Number 3, a dumbbell step back lunge. Stepping back is more controlled than stepping forward. It's less momentum and it's also easier to feel the right muscles working. Number 4, a dumbbell walking lunge. This is dynamic and requires coordination and stability in both directions. Number 5, a reverse deficit lunge. The deficit is under your front foot, which gives you maximum range of motion and stretch through the lengthened position. And number 6, the Bulgarian split squat. This has your rear foot elevated, full single leg load, and this is where most people hit a wall. It's also where these fixes matter the most. Now, regardless of which tier you're working with right now, these 3 fixes that I'm about to run you through apply to all of them. But before we jump into things, I would love to hear from you. I want to know exactly what variation you're working with right now and what's in your current program. Fix number 1, foot pressure. If you don't get this right, nothing else that I tell you is going to work. So please pay attention. One of the most common things that I see in clients, but then also just on the gym floor, is what I call flutter toes. This is essentially where your feet wobble, your toes flutter, and the whole base, it just becomes unstable. And if that's you, you're essentially trying to lunge whilst walking on a tightrope. You have no stability, and without a stable base, you can't load the right muscles. Your body's just trying not to fall over. And if you think, I don't have flutter toes, I want you to film yourself at the gym next time. A lot of the times people don't pay any attention to their foot and it's just doing this. So film yourself to really check whether you're falling into the same mistake that I see all of the time. So I'm going to run you through exactly what it is and a few little tips and tricks to make sure that you're applying the right kind of foot pressure. The first thing you've probably heard about is something called tripod foot. And that is essentially like a tripod that you put your camera on, where you put your big toe down, your little toe, and the heel of your foot. You apply pressure evenly. I don't know what the hell that is. You apply pressure evenly through those areas to create a nice, stable base, just like a tripod. But one thing that gets missed from this conversation is how to really create that pressure throughout the foot. One cue or tip that I really like to teach clients is gripping the floor with their foot and actually spreading their toes like your hands would if you were gripping something to really anchor into the floor and create that nice base of foot pressure. Now, to help with this, one thing I encourage a lot for my clients is taking your shoes off. Now, I'm going to leave my socks on for obvious reasons because censored, but when you're training in the gym, if you're having a tough time feeling your feet when you're working out, it's going to be hard for you to apply foot pressure and actually anchor in with that tripod foot. So if possible, not all gyms allow this as well, so please check the policy. But even if you're training at home, for example, or just in your lounge room, right? You don't have to use any weights. It can just be on the carpet in front of the TV, just practicing that mind to muscle foot connection with your body, because we lose it. We wear shoes all the time. Us ladies wear high heels all the time, and we wear so much uncomfortable footwear that we lose that connection with our toes. And like, can you do this with your toes? Probably not. This is going to help in so many ways, but the first thing you're going to notice is just how much more stable you actually feel in the exercise. You'll stop wobbling around because our big toe plays such a powerful role in balance and coordination. So making sure your big toe's down and your little toe, and obviously the heel of your foot, because that would be weird, it's going to create that nice base so that you can really generate a lot of stability. The other thing you need to make sure that you're not doing is using the wrong types of shoes in your training. Now, these are my Nike Metcons, and they're my lifting shoes. They have a really nice, hard, firm base, and they're a flat shoe. They're not as flat as maybe Converse or proper lifting shoes. They're sort of like a hybrid, but they're nowhere near as spongy and as mushy as my running sneakers. Anything like that, they tend to have a lot more cushion and air in the actual bottom of the shoe. Now, this is fantastic for impact, where you're doing a lot of repetition and impact, like running or playing netball or football, whatever it might be, but horrible for lifting weights in the gym. You're essentially lunging on a Swiss ball, right? That's really what you're doing. There's a lot of padding in there and it's making it hard to balance. Now, there is some types of training, for example, where we want you to be a little bit more unstable. That is what this is for. This is a balancing pad. So like if I was trying to improve my balance, I would be training like this because it's unstable. But for the majority of the time, most people are doing lunges to build muscle, build strength, right? Which means we want a stable base. Don't use these. Fix number 2, stance width. This is the mistake that I see most often because the majority of people don't even realize that they're doing it. When people lunge, they tend to step their feet in a narrow line, one directly in front of the other. It looks neat and it feels controlled, but it's actually a balancing act, not a lunge. One analogy that I want you to think about to actually put this in practice is instead of walking that tightrope and walking in a narrow stance with one foot in front of the other, I want you to visualize walking train tracks. Train tracks are a lot wider and it's going to give you that stance of stepping forward with that nice wide stance between. One way to find the perfect stance for you is jumping. Now, I use this a lot for back squats to coach and train and cue people to find the perfect stance to nail their back squat, but it also applies with lunges or split squats as well. You're just doing one leg instead of both. But all you need to do is essentially just jump. Where your feet land is going to be the perfect hip distance for you when it comes to lunges. When it comes to your stance, if you're too narrow, what this is going to do is shift the load into your hip flexors and your lower back. You're going to feel uncoordinated, wobbly, and feel it in all the wrong places. However, going super wide, that's also not ideal. If you go too wide, you're going to feel it in your inner thighs or your adductors, instead of obviously your glutes or quads, which is what we're trying to target. Now, if you want to put some of this into practice and you want to remove all the guesswork of thinking what variation, what progression, what type of lunge, how do I do it? How does this work into a training program? I've done all the hard work for you. You can find every one of these variations structured into the perfect program inside my training app. And right now you can try it completely free for 7 days. I'll put the link in the description below. Fix number 3, deficit height. This applies specifically to any lunge where your rear foot is elevated. This fix is personal to me because it took an embarrassingly long amount of time to get this right. Years ago, when I was training as a bikini pro athlete, training glutes and building my glutes was pretty much my entire training focus. There was one show that I did in particular many years ago where I got my stage photos back and I looked at them and thought, I need to work on my glute symmetry because they were sort of like distant cousins. I was like, what's going on there? I need to work on that. And it's very normal, to be honest. It's very normal to have one glute that's bigger than the other. But when you're a bodybuilder or when you're competing at a higher level, those are things that you actually get judged on. So I became obsessed with all of the finer details. I was looking at all types of lunge variations, how I could get the most out of my lower body training and really build my glutes up in a symmetrical way that complemented my competing goals, but in a way that didn't like break my body or mean that I was lunging every single day. One thing I realized is just how effective lunges are for that very goal. Not only are they less fatiguing than back squats or a leg press, but they also allow you to train each leg separately so that you can build up your glutes and improve symmetry. But unfortunately, no matter what I tried, I just kept running into the same problem. I was experiencing lower back pain whenever I was really pushing things with my Bulgarian split squats or other types of lunges. And I just pushed through because when you're competing, that's what you do. You just follow the plan. Eventually, I realized that the generic advice that I was seeing online wasn't designed for me and my body. I'm 5'4". So a lot of the form and technique and setup recommendations just didn't work based on my structure, my height, and my body. The mistake that I see so many people make is making the deficit too large. The goal of elevating your rear foot is not to stretch it as much as possible. It's to create just enough range so that you can load the muscle through its length and position to build muscle and maximize strength. Traditional benches that you see in the gym are often a fixed height. This is what you're going to be elevating your leg on. So you can't really adjust this. And they're often too high for a lot of people that are 5'4" or under. However, it's not just based on height. It's also based on the length of your femur and your tibia. So your biomechanics and your structure. Everyone's completely different. It's just often that if you're really tall, you got long legs as well, but that's not always the case. So when you're in the gym and you're setting up, I want you to pay attention to the bench that you're using and whether it's the right height for you. And I'm gonna show you exactly how to figure that out. One way that you can check though, if your bench is the right height, is simply stand behind it like this. What you want to see is that the back of the bench is below your knee. A lot of the times people position the bench and it's up either behind their knee or just above. But what I want you to do is make sure that it's like just below the back of your knee joint. This is how you know that it's actually in the right position and it's not too high, because if it's too high, it's going to twist your pelvis and rotate you and just make it harder than what it should for no added gain. Now, you're probably not at home, you're probably not buying your own gym bench, but one thing that you can do is this simple hack to change the height that you're standing on. You're just going to grab a bumper plate. You can now see that this bench comes down a little bit more to my mid calf, which is where I like to have my elevation. If I'm training at a gym or if I'm training somewhere else and they've only got traditional benches that don't have boxes or anything else that I can use, this is how I adjust the setup to make sure that it fits in with my structure. Lower is not better here. You don't have to come all the way down, but it's actually making sure that it's the right height and structure for me. Now, if you don't have this set up right here and maybe you don't have a bench and you can't use a bench, but you're at a gym, there's no benches available, whatever it might be, there's a few other setups that are just as useful as this one. The first one that I see a lot is people using a squat rack with a barbell. So they'll put the pins or the J hooks down nice and low so that they are the same height as a bench. They'll put the barbell on it and then they'll put a pad over the top. This is where their rear leg rests on. Just don't be that person taking up the squat rack for a lunge on a Monday, 5 p.m. But outside of that, fantastic. The second option that can also be really helpful is using a lying leg curl. So because you can adjust the angle of the pad on the back, you can do the exact same thing with the machine. These are the 3 fixes that will change how every lunge feels. They aren't complicated, but they will make every single variation on the tier list feel completely different. And that's the whole point. Mastering the fundamentals is what actually builds real strength. Everything else follows. And if you love this video here, it's from my How to Gym series, where I break down all of the gym stuff that no one ever teaches you, but everyone just expects you to know.